Week. Well, we'll stop that one there as the game is underway at Selhurst Park. It's Crystal Palace against Newcastle United, 3 o'clock kickoff in the Premier League. One of a number of games, of course, as usual, on Saturday afternoon. It's myself, Matt Guy, and Paul Szczerbakowicz alongside me, as I'll bring Paul in a second, as Edouard on the left-hand side fires it across goal. It collides everywhere, and somehow the ball doesn't end up in the back of the net. I think it's come off Kieran Clark. And then Christian Benteke in what would have been a goal in the opening 30 seconds.
A goal in the opening 30 seconds, absolutely, yeah. And this ball was played to Edouard. Bit of a lucky deflection. He plays that across the 6-yard box. And as you say, Clark sort of flicks it up in the air. And then it deflects off Benteke and away for a corner. But Palace, they're starting to find a bit more shape and a bit more rhythm under Patrick Vieira. And they'll be looking forward to this game, I think, at home.
Absolutely. Opening moments almost found the back of the net as Carl Darlow knocks forward the goal kick. But, of course, as mentioned, pre-kick-off, it's the first game since Steve Bruce left by mutual consent on Wednesday. So, former Luton man Graeme Jones takes charge of the Magpies today against Patrick Vieira. And his Crystal Palace team, which hosts Newcastle today and have been playing well as of late. They almost had a victory against Arsenal last time out, but for Alexandre Lacazette's 95th minute equaliser, they somehow went 2 down against Leicester and managed to claw that one back. They were the better team on that day. And I thought a few weeks ago now, they were unfortunate to lose by such a 3-0 heavy margin as they did against Liverpool. They've been a team that have got better as the season's gone on, and it's certainly a completely new team since Roy Hodgson left.
It is. I mean, there are still a few players left behind, of course, but generally Patrick Vieira is trying to bed down his, get his own mark on the team, and are a couple of younger players in the Palace under the last couple of years under Roy Hodgson were pretty much one of the oldest Premier League squads, weren't they, in terms of their average age? So that's something that certainly Palace wanted to improve. And say Vieira, the first few games it looked a little bit slow. They should have beaten Brentford in their first home game and only drew that game, but they are starting to pick up a few points now, and they've started brightly here as well, trying to put pressure on Newcastle. Yeah,
Newcastle making a couple of early mistakes, and I just wanted to start the game just talking about the home team, because I think they deserve it, as opposed to all the furore that's been about Newcastle.
I think everything that's been said about Newcastle over the last 2 weeks, of course, the new ownership, the departure of the manager, still pretty much the same coaching staff minus Steve Bruce taking charge of the game today. It'd be fascinating to see how many of those coaches remain once the whole new setup is complete.
Yeah, I'm sure we could spend the full 90 minutes talking about Newcastle if we so wanted, but
what we can talk about is the first goal being scored this afternoon already in the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Everton have a very early lead against Watford. It's looking like a bit of an ominous start for Claudio Ranieri at Watford. But Everton lead early on. We'll confirm the goal scorer in just a moment. Palace still looking bright here early on.
Absolutely. It's Edouard just drops it off to Gray on the left-hand side, gets the ball back, but plays it back to the centre-half. He's under pressure, but he's able to go back then into James McArthur. And Palace can play out from the back. They do like to play out from the back, but it was Joachim Andersen who got caught a couple of times against Leicester that put the Foxes up 2-0. Vardy nicked the ball off him once, and here comes Ryan Fraser trying to nick it off Joel Ward, who puts in a solid shoulder. And Fraser, looking to the referee, doesn't get a foul, as Olise flicks it inside to the very impressive this season Conor Gallagher, on loan, of course, from Chelsea, who smashed 7 past Norwich in the early kick-off in the Premier League. Myself and Paul were commentating on that game as well. It was a fantastic performance from Chelsea. And Conor Gallagher, if he continues to improve at the rate that he is doing, could find himself in that Chelsea team in not too far away in the future. But Longstaff's just won a ball in midfield, a really strong jackal in midfield, but play goes on for the moment. St. Maximin dribbling through midfield, goes to the right-hand side. It's a tackle from Gueye on the left-hand side on Wilson. I think it was Hayden. And
how was the referee allowed play to go on after that? That was a shocking challenge. I mean, was it really just a 50-50 fighting for the ball and then referee allowed play to go on? I thought that was a very strong challenge, but we'll see from the replay in just a moment. It's Milivojevic that's in real pain there, and we'll see from this replay now as this ball is played.
They're both lunging for it.
But
Hayden maybe has studs up.
Yeah, I mean, does Hayden do anything? Oh, I don't like that challenge at all. I mean Milivojevic is going for it as well. But again, I've seen 3 replays now. I still can't work out just how guilty in this Isaac Hayden is. But it doesn't look as though VAR is telling Darren England to look at anything for the time being.
I think if Milivojevic comes out okay from this, Hayden is fine, he's not injured. If Milivojevic comes out not injured as well, I'd be very surprised. It's one of those tackles, yes, maybe you could say it's a 50-50, they've both lunged in, but for both of them to come out without an injury, I would be extremely surprised. He's getting some pressure put on the front of his shin there, Luka Milivojevic, who's still on the ground, and the medical staff are clearly in communication over the earpieces. Patrick Vieira is on the sidelines as well, just wondering what's happening. But a pause in play for the moment, and that early Everton goal was Tom Davis. Paul, so,
yes, Tom Davis, Everton, former youth player, of course, a youth product at Goodison Park, getting that early goal, assisted by Damari Gray, who's made a very good start at Goodison Park, just like Andros Townsend as well, former Palace man.
Absolutely. Former Newcastle man as well, Andros Townsend, and still concern for Milivojevic. Hayden's up on his feet. He's on the touchline, just having a bit of a drink. I think Milivojevic is, by the way that he's sat up now, it looks as though he's not like, there's no serious injury, but it looks like a big knock to the shin, and whether he's okay to continue, I don't know. He's trying to get to his feet. Can he put pressure on his leg? I don't know.
Yeah, it could be one of those where he gets up tomorrow and half his shin's just one big bruise, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it looks for the time being as though he is going to be okay. Camera now focusing on Patrick Vieira, of course, who's certainly no stranger to challenges like that in his time as a player.
No, absolutely. He liked to put in a tackle and a half, didn't he? But the Palace skipper just coming to the sidelines now. As, the Palace,
I think also the reaction is quite telling. There didn't seem to be a big huddle, a big sort of pushing match between the two sets of players. So it's not as if one team felt as though there was a strong challenge. I think both players went for it, and it's just that Milivojevic ended up coming worse off.
Yeah, Palace won't want to make a change, and I don't think they will. The reason I say that is that Milivojevic has come to the near side of the pitch as we look at it, and the managers and the bench are on the other side. So he probably would have walked off that side had he been guaranteed to be substituted, as Palace receive the ball back now from Newcastle. 7 minutes played already in this game at Selhurst Park. Independent off-tube studio commentary of Crystal Palace against Newcastle. And now's a good time to run through the two-team lineups for you. Then it's Guaita between the sticks for Palace, with a back four of Ward, Anderson, Gueye, Mitchell, Milivojevic, MacArthur and Gallagher in midfield, with Edouard and Michael Olise either side of Christian Benteke, as Palace playing out from the back almost had a little bit of trouble for the pressing St. Maximin, who's up alongside Fraser and Wilson in attack for Newcastle. Longstaff and Hayden are in midfield, and the back five of Manquillo, Kraft, Lascelles, Clark and Ritchie, with Darlow between the sticks. It's two changes for the Magpies, one change for the Eagles, and it is the home side in possession of the ball. Milivojevic back onto the field, and playing a ball across midfield into Mark Gueye. Now on the right with Ward, into the feet of Olise, who's been a bit of a super sub so far this season for the Eagles.
Well, he's had a Midas touch with his subs, has Patrick Vieira. Brought Edouard on against Spurs, and he scored within seconds of that appearance, didn't he? And we've seen that a couple of times as well from Vieira, bringing players off the bench. And Palace certainly looking the brighter in these early stages. Newcastle now just trying to soak up a bit of pressure.
Yeah, it was Olise and Schlupp who scored off the bench against Leicester a couple of weeks ago, as down the left-hand side, Ritchie looking for a ball down the line, finds Wilson in an advanced position. Ward comes across to cover as he just about gets the ball back into midfield to Fraser, crosses it in towards St. Maximin, tries to whip his head at that one. I think the ball comes off Mitchell in the end, but he got it well, did St. Maximin there, but he's not known for his heading.
No, he's not. That's not the first skill you think of, but certainly he's certainly very athletic, a very strong player, so he certainly should be good in an aerial fight if the ball was coming in. Just because of his often wide position, he's sometimes the one putting crosses in. But it seems to be that they're trying to keep him and Wilson central, almost like a two up front. That might just be the case when they're in possession, but here come Palace again. As
Edouard just tries to flick the ball past Kraft, but the Newcastle defender gets a touch on it, goes out for a throw. Certainly does look that way, doesn't it, with Hayden, Longstaff and Fraser in a more midfield flat three. Fraser on the left of that, as stepping forward is Joe Ward into the feet of Conor Gallagher. Haven't seen too much of him on the ball at the moment, but coming into this game, it's certainly one of those that you're excited to watch the likes of Gallagher and St. Maximin.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very impressed with Gallagher. Gallagher looked good for West Brom, didn't he? But he's looked even better at Palace this season. Edouard's looked good since he's coming from Celtic, and of course Newcastle, with everything that's been happening in the background, the players are going to be very keen to show what they can do as well. Under a new manager now, of course, under Graeme Jones, I do wonder how much of the coaching staff under Steve Bruce believed in the same style of play that he did, because of course it's still pretty much the rest of the coaching staff still left behind. So it will be interesting to see over the next few weeks before the new manager is announced just how they play. Yeah,
there's a lot of rumours flying about as to who will take over at St James's Park, as Gallagher just goes down for a moment, gets a slight nudge from Kieran Clark, but he was just seeing him off the ball as it ran in front, so ball goes out for a goal kick, and nothing more than that. But, the camera pictures showed before kick-off that the new owners of Newcastle are in the stands at Selhurst Park, as you would expect. And just as I say that, the camera pans to them once again.
Absolutely. There's going to be a person from the TV company at every game now making sure that he can see the new owners who, interestingly enough, already looking down on their phone, perhaps potentially returning messages about new appointments and the like, but certainly plenty to do. Our second goal has gone in this afternoon in the 3 o'clock kickoffs. It is at Ellen Road, and it's Wolves who've taken the lead early on in that game, just waiting for confirmation of the goal scorer, but it's been a bleak start for Leeds this season.
Yeah, Leeds have had some big troubles with injuries, haven't they, with the likes of Phillips and Ayling and Rafinha being out recently. Of course, Rafinha coming back from Brazilian national duty. Wolves are in form as well. So
certainly are. We'll confirm that the goal scorer, it's actually Hee-chan Hwang, the Korean forward, who's looked good as well since he's joined Wolves this summer. But in the meantime, Newcastle have got themselves a throw, and Kraft is limbering up for a long throw here.
Absolutely. Back to the advertising board as Kraft runs up the hill, launches it towards the edge of the touchline, far touchline, as Kraft runs onto the deflected ball as it comes back towards him. Hayden now looking to go down the line against Edouard, who drops in a shoulder. Hayden still on the ball, knocks it against the defender. It deflects into the box as then Kraft puts in a toe, and that one goes out for a goal kick over on the far right-hand side of the field. But Newcastle not really getting too much in terms of dangerous opportunities there from that throw-in. It was launched into the box, but it never really went anywhere near the central defenders.
Couldn't stick near the box, really, could it?
No.
That was the problem, and then Kraft trying to come in to save that second ball just couldn't keep it in play. Graeme Jones, of course, for many years, Roberto Martinez is assistant as well, so he will have had some background there with the current Belgian manager. It's an offside flag that just stops the Palace move in its tracks. 12 minutes gone, and I think Newcastle will be quite pleased because they seem to have weathered a bit of an early storm, and they're starting to see more of the ball now.
Yeah, absolutely. Newcastle on the ball now as they play it down the left-hand side. Ryan Fraser chases for that one. A free kick's gone the way of Ryan Fraser. That's unfortunate for me for Joachim Andersen. The ball was headed down the line, I think, by Matt Ritchie. As Ryan Fraser went to it, Andersen was easily going to win the ball, and Fraser has run right across him.
Well, I mean, I suppose the question here, if anyone who saw the Atletico Liverpool game on Tuesday, of course, would we say that's similar? Was Griezmann just as intending to get the ball just as much? Andersen is going to get a yellow card for this. It won't be a red. But Matt Ritchie now is having a go at Joachim Andersen as well, saying, come on, look up. But I think I can see your point as well, Matt, that he is trying to get the ball, but as soon as there's a foot raised to that height, I mean, Fraser is a little bit shorter than Andersen, but it's not like Fraser's ducked down.
No, yeah, Andersen has brought his foot up as opposed to Fraser coming down. There's been 2 more goals, incidentally, around the grounds. Burnley have taken the lead at Southampton. Maxwell Cornet with that goal, and Watford have equalised at Goodison Park. Still waiting to get confirmation of that goal.
First goal for Watford under the Ranieri era, and Ryan Fraser seems a little bit worse for wear. He's almost pressing into that head to see if there's a blood injury, but there isn't.
No, as Graeme Jones just pointing, making some pointers to his teammates from his team on the sideline there, but that all just in the waiting action for this free kick from Matt Ritchie, who floats one into the Palace box. Rising for that one's Wilson, but he leaves it for the back post. It's flicked towards goal, then deflected. Then Wilson in at the far post, hits the side netting. It was a tight angle from Callum Wilson, who also gets the ball thrown at his head from a fan in the crowd who had the ball in his hands. But it was difficult for Wilson from that angle, but I think there should have been a goal before that.
I just wonder as well, Wilson and Lascelles almost getting each other's way there when they go for the initial cross. And then it's a nice little touch there from Gaeta that he just gives a little fist bump to Callum Wilson after he was almost assaulted by the ball by that fan who threw it straight at him. I remember actually Gary Neville did that back to a fan once and got sent off in a game between Everton and Manchester United. I seem to remember a fan lobbed it at him at Goodison Park. Neville took exception, threw it straight back at the fan and got himself either a straight red or a second yellow. But no, Newcastle now looking a lot better on the field, and I think Palace, for my money now, they need to start stepping up because they're in danger of starting to be caught inside their own half.
Absolutely. It was Longstaff that flicked the ball forward, and Gray did well to re-manoeuvre his body to just clear the ball off the line, which then did fall to Callum Wilson. And Callum Wilson's former Bournemouth teammate Josh King is the man that scored the goal for Watford away at Goodison. So the other 3 kickoffs at 3 p.m. have all got a goal. We're waiting for the first goal in this one.
We're the last ones now. It's only 15 minutes on the clock, and we're the only game that hasn't seen a goal. But now there's a VAR review for the Watford goal, so potentially that might be getting chalked off. Here come Palace, no doubt, on the right-hand side.
We may have already used up our goal allowance today watching Chelsea this afternoon.
Absolutely, yeah. That was quite a performance from Chelsea, and also quite a flat performance from Norwich. But Chelsea cementing their place at the top of the league with that 7-0 hammering. Vieira now trying to get some instructions out to his players. And there's Wilf Zaha on the bench.
Yep, Wilfred Zaha on the bench alongside Jordan Ayew and Jeff Schlupp there.
It's a strong bench for Palace. Tompkins, Ayew, Schlupp, Mateta, Klein, Hughes, Kouyaté, Zaha and Butland. You could arguably put all of those in the starting 11, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And imagine if, when Eberechi Eze comes back from injury as well, he's another player who was in fine form, wasn't he, for Palace before he got that Achilles injury?
He did, yeah. He looked good for QPR before Palace signed him as well. He's a very good attacking midfielder. But here come Palace now with Benteke.
Benteke turns quickly, tries to play it to the left towards Edouard, deflects back to Benteke, edge of the box. It's touched by Longstaff, comes back to Edouard. Goes out to the left-hand side for Mitchell, fires it in towards the penalty spot. MacArthur racing for that one, gets there before Fraser. Out to the right now with Elise, looking for a left foot option maybe. Comes back to MacArthur, still on the ball somehow. He's crowded by about 5 Newcastle players there. Sliding tackle, great one from Edouard. Wins the ball back off Wilson, who was sleeping on the ball. As Elise, wide right position now, cuts back on his left foot, finds MacArthur, finds Milivojevic. Guay's in an advanced position looking for the ball on the left-hand side, but Anderson goes back to the right with MacArthur. He drives forward with the ball. Gallagher makes a run in front of him. Elise is wide. Elise picks it up, whips it in first time. Header into the air by Clark. Another header this time by Hayden. Knocked down by Milivojevic. Into Joel Ward. It's frantic attacking here from Crystal Palace, but in the end it's Matt Ritchie who then gets there and smashes it forward. St. Maximin chasing for that one. He was interested for a moment, but covering well was Guay to see the ball back to his goalkeeper.
Yeah, well, that is a little response now from Palace, isn't it? We said that we needed to see a little bit more from them as Newcastle was starting to find their feet in this game, and that last attacking move, Newcastle just couldn't clear their lines. 2 or 3 times Palace were able to save the ball before eventually it was cleared away.
Looks like that Watford goal has stood for the moment as the ball's whipped by Mitchell up towards Edouard. Calls for a handball against Kraft there, but nothing given at that moment. It's then Milivojevic into the midfield to Gallagher, flicked onto Edouard, looking for another option to play it to, flicks it back to Gallagher. That's smart work, eyes in the back of his head there from the Frenchman. Gallagher out to the left now. Mitchell needed to control that ball in front of him, but let it run across. Gallagher back inside to MacArthur. Turns quickly in midfield and goes backward once again. These little pockets of openings that Palace are finding, they're just not having that quality at the final moment. Another one there as Gallagher turns and the ball runs away from him. Now Longstaff looking to get forward.
Absolutely, yeah. First of all, Mitchell should have run onto it first time and crossed it. Couldn't do it. Now he's trying to get back to stop at St. Maximin.
Trademark St. Maximin run, plays it in behind the defence looking for Fraser. He played it with his left foot. He played it too far in front of the Scot, didn't he?
Yeah, he could have passed it to Fraser. He had Wilson going on the overlap as well. Couldn't find either of them in the end. And now Edouard giving the free kick away. He's unhappy, but Darren England just explaining it's just a little bit too much contact in that one. And we'll see from the replay. I mean, Kraft is clever here as well, because he's basically just put his body in the way and given Edouard a choice. Either let me turn with the ball or run into me and give away a free kick, and Edouard went for option B. Yeah,
he's using his peripheral vision there, isn't he, to see exactly where Edouard is and then steps across him. But just before that, typical St. Maximin run. As soon as he gets the ball in midfield, he wants to turn and sprint straight at you, doesn't he? And he does it so well, and almost found a man in an advanced position to try and score, as Anderson had to be careful with that one, just headed it back to his own goalkeeper.
Yeah, it had a little bit too much pace probably on it, as Anderson was heading it back towards Gaeta, but no problems in the end for the veteran goalkeeper, who at one stage looked to be on the way out of Palace. Hennessy seemed to be taking over, but a combination of a few mistakes from Hennessy and Gaeta getting back in the side, and now he's a regular fixture again and is keeping Butland out of the team.
Yeah, I think he's a good player, Gaeta. I think he's an exceptional shot stopper. He often had to do that under Roy Hodgson. They used to have shots peppered at them all day long. But I do think that Newcastle have got a couple of good goalkeepers as well, with Dubravka and Darlow.
Absolutely, yes, and Dubravka's still trying to get over an injury. They've got Freddie Woodman as well, of course, in their ranks, as well as Matt Gillespie. But here come Palace again down the left.
Mitchell trying to play on towards Edouard, but it's cleared out from the back, only into the feet of Guay inside the Newcastle half. on the halfway line is Anderson, square to Joel Ward, who's staying very deep, whereas Mitchell's going very high on the left-hand side. As Elise getting chalk on those white boots of his, cuts inside and his left boot flicks it into Gallagher. Looking for an option maybe, just turns back and goes into Joel Ward. Back to Gallagher, plays the ball past Fraser, out to the right again to Elise, who just wants to cut back every time and does so again. In towards Benteke, hits the post, comes back towards Mitchell, miscontrolled, fired at the goalkeeper, and Darlow hits his face and goes out for a corner.
It is a corner, but so close to Palace taking the lead there. It's a good ball from the right-hand side. Benteke probably thinks he's done enough to score here. Gallagher just stabbing that ball forward to Elise, left-footed cross. Good header from Benteke. Darlow rooted to the spot, but then he does well to at least block that near post and force it out for a corner.
You do feel he should have scored there, Christian Benteke. He's tried to glance it bottom left-hand corner, and he's hit the base of the post. That's twice right in front of goal. The ball's hit his head. The first one by accident. The corner is whipped into the far post, punched out by Darlow, volleyed by Gallagher. That was a steaming effort. Hits, I think, Longstaff in front of him. Gallagher goes down, Fraser's then managed to get the ball away, but I think Longstaff may be hurt here.
Yeah, I think Newcastle in possession. If the referee wasn't going to stop play, they were just about to kick it out for a throw anyway, because that really was full pelt there for Matt Ritchie.
Not Longstaff. It's a very painful one for Matt Ritchie.
It is. Ritchie isn't the sort of player that will just stay down for no reason, but as I say, we're seeing another replay of that header now as Benteke. Well, he gets up in the air highest, and I agree with you that he should be scoring, but he's very close to scoring. He wants to nestle that ball in the bottom corner, and then we'll see this strike here. Gallagher, oh dear, has he caught Ritchie where no man wants to be caught? I think that's possibly the problem, that it's a volley right in the groin there for Matt Ritchie.
Yeah, I think so, and it was a very well struck shot, wasn't it, from Gallagher? He caught it so sweetly.
So Mrs. Ritchie will be watching this with some trepidation as well, hoping that all is well. But it is going to be a drop ball now, and you'd expect that Newcastle should. Newcastle were in possession, so they carry on. But 79% possession for Palace early on just shows that even in that spell when Newcastle were starting to get on top, they didn't see much of the ball.
No, and Longstaff's giving the ball away to MacArthur. Drives to the left-hand side, gives it to Edouard, tries to cut it back first time. Deflected by Kraft, but back to the Frenchman. Into Mitchell now. Step over against Hayden, cuts it back, looking for the edge of the box, but Longstaff's there. Then Manquillo into the skies. Milivojevic heads it down, and now Fraser looking for a ball forward. See what he was trying there, but he possibly could have looked for a different option as he played it straight into Milivojevic. But Manquillo looking now for Wilson. He's saying it's got to go in behind, it's got to go wide, but he played it straight in towards Guay. And Palace come forward once again. The team dominating the ball. If anybody's going to score, it's going to be Palace, but you just feel if they keep having chances and keep missing them, then it may be one of those days they can't hit the back of the net. They've already picked up a few draws in a row.
They have, yeah. They're being clinical and perhaps not taking chances. They've certainly been guilty of that in a few games this season, Palace, but very much in the ascendancy again now.
As Guay comes inside to Joachim Anderson, out to Ward. Inside right position now with Elise. He's certainly staying deep. Elise's wide on the right, and then Gallagher is often more supporting Elise on the right than he is coming to the left. I feel that Benteke helps Edouard on the left, but Mitchell's so much higher up, isn't he? As the ball comes into Benteke's feet from Mitchell now. Driving down the left, finds Edouard wide on the left flank. Looks to whip this one in, no, cuts back. Nice little chop, whips it front post. It's headed out though by Lascelles, picked up by Guay. Turned back towards Mitchell on the left-hand side. Plays it inside, poor ball in towards Edouard. Easily intercepted. Wilson goes down the line, looking for a foul. Nothing given. St. Maximin runs onto it and then gets shoved into the cameraman on the near side. That's certainly a foul. Milivojevic knew exactly what he was doing.
Yes, he did. Milivojevic is a very experienced central midfielder. Knew exactly what he was doing there, just trying to stop any dangerous counter-attack as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it was no foul against Wilson, but certainly was a foul against St. Maximin because, it had slight resemblances. I remember a number of years ago now when Gareth Bale first went to Real Madrid, and he ran past Mark Bartra in the cup, was it? And it was a late winner for Real Madrid against Barcelona. He flicked it past him, ran off the pitch, but ran faster than him and caught him up and overtook him in the end and went and scored.
It's like we used to see in the playground. The fastest kid would just play the ball into space and then just basically win a foot race to get to the ball again. You don't really see that very often on a professional field, but someone as quick as Bale, it's always possible.
Absolutely. See, it's a lot I remember Rugby Sevens when the Americans signed up Carlin Isles, a former sprinter. He just played on the wing. They gave it him and he ran around everybody. in rugby sevens. It was one of those when you were in school as well. The fastest player in football, who was the best at football, was often the fastest at rugby the best at rugby because he was the fastest as well.
And he tended to be the fast bowler during the cricket season as well.
And the sprinter in the athletics.
Absolutely, yeah. On sports day you get all the medals as well. But Palace, so far, looking very good in possession, but just not able to get forward.
Nope, not able to get forward at the moment. And neither really are Newcastle unless they get the ball to St Maximin, the road runner. As the ball comes back now to Joel Ward, around about 25 minutes gone, and we are actually well over halfway in this first half, Paul, so it's over to you to finish the half.
Thank you very much, Matt. Yes, and it's Palace pushing forward now with Guehi getting the ball into Benteke. Benteke breaks into the box. That's a last-ditch challenge there from Longstaff. Still stays alive here for Edouard. He can't get a strike away. Guehi following up. He gets into the box, and the former Swansea man, bit of a scuffed left-footed effort in the end there. Comfortable save for Darlow, who bowls it out quickly as well. Newcastle trying to get an attack started quickly with Wilson being held up there on the halfway line. Oh, it's a bit of pushing and shoving now. And Milivojevic now doesn't like that. And then he's having to be held back at Callum Wilson by his own coaching staff. And now Graeme Jones doesn't like the fact that Milivojevic pushed him. And potentially Darren England's got some housekeeping to do here.
Yeah, I don't really know how that came about. I think Wilson might have tripped Ward as he was going down already, and Ward didn't like it when he stood back up. But
Ward initially takes exception to that. Wilson then shoves him, which Ward doesn't like. Ward then shoves back on Wilson, but then there seems to be a little bit... Ooh, I tell you what, Joel Ward just with his hand up on Wilson. Then Milivojevic getting involved, gets pushed away by Graeme Jones, and I think Milivojevic then pushed back at the manager, and the Newcastle manager took exception to that. But in fairness, looking at that replay, it was actually Graeme Jones that made contact with Milivojevic first. I thought that Ward could have been in trouble because there was almost contact with the face there, and there's a yellow card for, at least for Callum Wilson, but surely he can't be the only one that gets one there.
Yeah, it looked to me as if he was the one winding up Joel Ward. I think he wanted the throw-in, didn't he, and Ward thought it was going to be a free kick. It is a free kick in the end. And that's why Wilson was pushing him to get the ball back. And Ward has got a yellow card.
Ward has got a yellow card as well.
I thought, as you said, Ward was very lucky. He raised his hand. He put it was a pushing action as opposed to a slap or a punch.
That's true.
It was on the side of the neck, wasn't it?
But it is interesting that you do a fake headbutt and you can get a straight red card for that. But you can actually sort of swipe at an opponent, hit him in the face, and you won't get a red card for that. It's a slightly strange situation. I've got a feeling these cards might be stacking up here now. That's a clumsy one from Matt Ritchie. He takes down Conor Gallagher. I'm sure if there's going to be a booking straight away. Certainly the Palace fans at the side of the pitch, they're asking for a yellow as Gallagher tries to get away from Ritchie. Well, maybe it's not necessarily as cynical as I first thought. I think he's trying to get the ball, but it isn't quite a nasty trick there as well.
Yeah, I think Darren England, if he did give a yellow for that, it would be going down a slippery slope, wouldn't he?
Yes, I think he'd end up having to give out 7 or 8 in the game as Elise now with the... Oh, I tell you what, he whips that one towards goal. I thought initially he was just going to be trying to cross it, but looking at that expression on his face, I think he was trying to catch the goalkeeper out and score directly from that free kick.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his, I don't know what you call them, braids, dreadlocks, whatever they are, but shades of Ronaldinho.
Yes, absolutely, against David Seaman. There's a similar sort of way he was trying to nestle that into the top corner, although Seaman's always claimed that Ronaldinho did that by accident, although I think they asked Ronaldinho about it once, and he said he saw Seaman off his line and wanted to do that. But now we could see that Ultras corner there from Crystal Palace. They're behind the goal that Palace are attacking in this first half. I'm sure those fans would love to see a goal, and Palace certainly trying to get forward again. Now Edouard is taken down. Referee gives Palace an advantage because MacArthur kept the ball moving. He lays it back to Sonny Edouard, and now it's with Mark Guehi over towards the right-hand side. Ward chasing this ball down, plays it in towards Elise. He's got 4 players up there with him, getting towards the edge of the penalty area, being stood up by 2 Newcastle players, having to try and roll this one back now to Milivojevic. That's good work though from Sam Maximan, covering at the edge of his own box, and then Longstaff hitting the deck, still able to get the ball to Callum Wilson, who holds it up and leaves it now for Javi Manquillo. Manquillo's got Kraft on the overlap. That's where the ball has gone. Kraft's pass to Sam Maximan, just a little bit overhit, and straight away here come Palace now down the left-hand side with Tyrick Mitchell. Leaves the ball for Christian Benteke, and now Milivojevic joins the attack from midfield, goes square to Conor Gallagher. Palace are about 30 yards out now. Gallagher to Ward. Now it's Elise on the right-hand side. 3 Newcastle players getting close to him. Lays the ball off now towards Joel Ward. Milivojevic back to Ward, back to Elise. And in fairness to Newcastle, access to their penalty area isn't straightforward.
No, it's good defensive work at the moment from Newcastle, but the game opens up, doesn't it? As soon as the Magpies go forward, Palace instantly attack them back.
Well, here come Palace again now with Edouard down the left-hand side, back to Mitchell. And Guecki joining this attack, or certainly joining the midfield as Palace enjoys some possession inside the Newcastle half. We're coming up to 30 minutes gone, independent of Tube Studio commentary. This is the only 3 o'clock game that's still goalless in the Premier League. Elsewhere, Everton 1, Watford 1, Leeds 0, Wolves 1, Southampton 0, Burnley 1, and there's still Brighton against Manchester City to come at 5:30 this evening. In the early game, Chelsea hammered Norwich by 7 goals to 0. Now it's some defensive work there from Manquillo, getting the ball away from Edouard. But I think it's been... the ball's now back on midfield. Our camera, the pictures that we're getting independent of Tube Studio commentary, the camera just veered off towards the crowd for a moment there. But in the meantime, Palace still on the ball and Newcastle not really able to get any possession.
No, yeah, I think it was Manquillo put the ball out. I think they just took a quick free kick on the left-hand side, didn't they, Palace? But yeah, playing good football through the middle, looking for options and trying to find Olise.
That's a good ball. That is a good ball from James McArthur. Thumb up there from Olise as well. Acknowledging that was a good chance, just a little bit too much pace, or perhaps Olise just saw it a split second. He's not actually on the man, is he? He could do with being actually on the offside line, but he times his run pretty well. Actually, I have to be a little bit too harsh there. They just got away from him.
Yeah, just looking at Kieran Clark there, he had no idea where Olise was, but it wasn't his man initially, it was Matt Ritchie's man. And as soon as he's driven off Matt Ritchie has to shout at Clark, and Clark instantly turned after the chance and looked at Matt Ritchie and said, "You've got to communicate with me," because he clearly didn't get a shout.
No, that's it, and that's such an important thing. You hear that from schools football, of course. You've always got to talk to your teammates, and you see it far too often in even at the highest level, where players clearly lose the ball just because they didn't get the most basic man-on shout or something of that ilk. But now a free kick to Newcastle. Well, Longstaff certainly wanted it. Referee Darren England let them play an advantage, and literally 2 passes later, it's just a diagonal ball that goes straight out for a throw. So based on that, Newcastle probably would have preferred that free kick on the halfway line. It's Milivojevic now playing it back to Guecki. Now to Tyrick Mitchell. Not too many Newcastle players pressing here as Palace play out from the back. It's now with Edouard on the halfway line, goes square to Milivojevic. Guecki now to Anderson. Newcastle just looking to try and slow down this Palace possession. It went through the Palace bench. I've just mentioned the Newcastle bench in a second. We'll just see what happens here with this move as the home side going forward now with Conor Gallagher. Leaves the ball here for James McArthur. Back to Gallagher. He's got 2 or 3 options ahead of him, but he skips away from Hayden, then tries a very intricate pass into the box to find Benteke. Doesn't get through to him. Kraft now square to Manquillo. His ball is stopped by McArthur, so Palace still in possession at the edge of the Newcastle penalty area. Edouard touches the ball onto Benteke. Back to Ossone Edouard. He's being held up by Kieran Clark, so he goes back towards Joel Ward. Ward now to Olise, back towards Edouard, and he can't get away from Clark this time, but Olise does well to keep the ball in play, gets it away from Matt Ritchie. Oh, this is great ball control here from the Palace number 7, you just can't take it off him. It's a Ronaldinho comparison, looking all the more realistic now with the control like that. It's ball whipped in from Joel Ward, but eventually cleared out for a Palace throw.
Yeah, he's a bit of an enigma, isn't he, Michael Olise, as Ronaldinho was. Just so good on the ball, so creative. Just the ball looks like it's sticking at his feet, and he's so confident in which way he's deciding to go. Of course, he always wants to come back to his left, but he shimmies and jives one way then the other, and you can never gamble that he's always going to come on his left.
No, he's certainly confident enough on his right, but better on his left. Palace now lose the ball in midfield, and it's brought away by Sam Maximan, who's taken out just as he's making the pass. I mean, it's Milivojevic that clashes with him. Considering the incidents that Milivojevic has been involved with already, it's quite incredible that he's still not been booked in this game. Yeah,
I don't know how that wasn't pulled back for a free kick, because as soon as he played it, he absolutely smashed through, wasn't he? And it was the fact that he had that pressure that he overhit the pass, wasn't it, and drilled it down that side. So I thought unfortunate not to get the free kick there, Sim Maximan.
Yeah, if you're certainly looking for, it certainly felt as though he was being brought down. I think both myself and Matt thought that it could have been a free kick. Palace, though, starting to push into that Newcastle half again. And it's Gallagher. He gets away and he tries to thread a ball in towards Edouard, and it's a good challenge covering inside his penalty area there. A good challenge from Emil Kraft, who's trying to just G up his teammates there as well. Because Gallagher looks very bright in this game, and so is Edouard, in fairness. And that whole left-hand side, Mitchell's looked good as well going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a drill ball, wasn't it, to Gallagher? And as soon as he made that first touch, which was fantastic, it opened things up, and he had to really play that ball to Edouard. But to be fair, Kraft was equal to it.
He certainly was. Puts it out for a throw, which Tyrick Mitchell now waits to take. Goes back towards Guehi. And Anderson, although he's good on the ball as well, he does stay back a little bit further. Guehi allowing himself to get forward. He finds MacArthur. MacArthur's ball into the box. Good header away by Kieran Clark. And then Ryan Fraser helps it on towards the halfway line, where Sam Maximan and Guehi collide on the halfway line. It's one of those where Sam Maximan's trying to sort of climb on Guehi and fall to the ground. Quite often that does go in favour of the player that falls, but on this occasion the referee deciding that Sam Maximan was more in the wrong.
Yeah, he jumped really early, hasn't he? And I think Guehi kind of saw it and just decided not to jump, and helped him from not falling on his head at least.
Absolutely, and cross now from Elise. He's been doing that all afternoon. Left footer on the right hand side, cutting in and whipping that ball in. It's a good header away though from Newcastle captain Jamal Lascelles. Out for a throw to Palace now down the right hand side, and Joel Ward is coming across to take this one. About taking it quickly. Just a short throw to Conor Gallagher, back to Ward, and Elise wasn't sure about whether he was onside or not, so he thought he'd just leave it and let the ball go out for a goal kick. Just to run you through very quickly: Everton 1, Watford 1, no change. Leeds 0, Wolves 1, no change, and Southampton trailing at home by a goal to 0 to Burnley. Patrick Vieira there. Now we can see shots of Steve Parish, the Palace co-owner, alongside Mark Bright, former Palace player and now director of football. As I say, it was a gamble after the sort of the safety of Roy Hodgson, where Palace flirted with relegation but always seemed to have enough to avoid it, really. And now they've gone for a manager, of course, who was a big name in terms of his playing career. Still yet to make a full name for himself as a manager, though.
Yeah, they had a series, didn't they, Palace, where they were really good for the first half of the season, got like all round about 30-ish points, and then went off the boil and just about scraped it through. But yeah, Patrick Vieira, he's not had a long career, as you said, in terms of management, but his ideas seem to be working in the Premier League. It's one of those, some managers are brilliant at great clubs with great players and terrible at poorer clubs because they don't have the quality.
Well, it's true, and I think that also with someone like Vieira, because he was such a great player, it can sometimes just hinder you becoming a good manager. I always remember a couple of the older Chelsea players from the days when Glenn Hoddle was player manager. They're mentioning that he almost expected them to do what he could do on the training ground, and obviously most of them didn't have the same skills that he did. Certainly that was also the case when Hoddle was player manager at Swindon Town. But sometimes you just get the feeling that Vieira just seems to be getting a bit more of a tune out of his players. And Elise there chasing a long ball down, keeping it in play, putting it across goal, and then Mitchell's header is, I think there might have been a free kick in any case for a push inside the penalty area. But I mean, this could turn out to be a problem for Palace now, because they've dominated this first half and have only really tested Cardano a couple of times. Yeah,
that's why they're potentially ruining that Benteke headed miss that he hit the post with early. Just to go back to your point, I think you're absolutely right that it can sometimes hinder managers, but at the minute we do have Patrick Vieira, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Mikel Arteta as well, all in and around the scene, all fine players as well, weren't they?
Yeah, Rooney, of course, trying to cut his teeth at Derby, and that in itself is going to be an experience for him, working at a club where there's so much chaos in the background as well.
I think it will certainly help him for the future, that experience.
I think so. I think in many ways you could say that he's probably never going to have a more difficult backroom situation than what he has now. So if he can get through that and still improve on his training methods and how he manages players, that will certainly serve him well, as indeed it will serve all the Derby players well, if they can still keep some sort of shape and try and recover something from what's a very difficult season for them. But tangent's over. Newcastle now lose possession. They've barely been able to get forward in that last minute or so. Now a long ball played up towards Edouard. Good header though from Lascelles, just beats Edouard to the ball, and now it's with Sean Longstaff. He plays the ball towards Wilson, who in a playmaking role this time gets that ball in towards Sam Maximan, who is chasing Guehi. Guehi slides in and puts it out for a corner, but we saw there just how fast Sam Maximan is.
Yeah, I think he got slightly fortunate with the control, because Wilson fired it at his heels, didn't he? And he almost backheeled it onto his other foot. Gray then with the tackle puts it out. I think it definitely was a corner, having looked back at it. But
I think so. I think Guehi's still trying to argue the case now, but looking at that last replay, I would argue that it probably did come off the Palace man. So it's a corner kick, and Matt Ritchie is coming across to take this one. He is a left footer, and it is on the left-hand side, so it is going to be an outswinger here from the Newcastle number 11. Just waiting to see where his teammates are inside the penalty area. Not had any joy from open play really, Newcastle, so maybe this set piece might be a change of fortune. Outswinger there from Ritchie towards the edge of the 6-yard box. Header from Benteke, and we'll go again. Another corner.
Yeah, back out for a corner. I thought it's always awkward, isn't it, when a player heads it like that? You do sometimes feel surely you've got to be able to turn it away from the corner, giving away another corner. But sometimes it's just best to get your head on it, no matter where it goes.
Absolutely, just to try and make sure that it gets away from the danger area. It's going to be an outswinger again. Ritchie trying to get slightly less angle on it this time, aiming at Clark. The ball then drops at the edge of the area. Longstaff couldn't get a shot away. He's asking the question there as he's running back into midfield whether or not he was brought down. Referee Darren England says no. Now, it was a chance there for Michael Elise to try and keep the ball in play. Can't do it though. It is out for a throw to Newcastle down the right-hand side. I
thought Longstaff was looking for that all day long. As soon as the ball bounced towards him, he knew what he was going to do. He knew he was going to chest it. Yes, there was contact from behind it in terms of there was a little nudge, but I don't think enough for a penalty.
No, not enough as far as the referee was concerned. Didn't even need to wait a second there with VAR. They could make their minds up themselves with that one. So the ball now back on the halfway line, but it is Palace in possession. We've got less than 5 minutes to go before we hit injury time in this first half. Still goalless between Palace and Newcastle. Mitchell now inside to Milivojevic. Back now to Guehi. Towards the right-hand side for Conor Gallagher. Being closed down, but still able to keep the ball to gets it to Joel Ward. Now back with Anderson. And it's over with Mitchell again on the left. They've got a bit more space. Manquillo not closing him down so much. I just think that Elise is now on that left-hand side as well. So it's like they've got Elise switching over to the left, but I haven't really seen whether has Edouard gone over to the right, or is he playing a bit more through the middle now?
I think it looks like he's more middle and Gallagher's on the right-hand side, to be honest. Elise just runs across now and switches back to right-hand side.
Yeah, so maybe it was just for a brief moment. It's meanwhile Tino Livramento. Another man with a Chelsea connection. We mentioned Conor Gallagher earlier. Livramento now putting Southampton level at home to Burnley. It's a throw on to Newcastle now down the left-hand side. Matt Ritchie got the ball into Saint-Maximin, but it's picked off, and now MacArthur brings it forward for Palace. He finds Benteke heading towards the edge of the area. Benteke into Edouard. Edouard inside the penalty area, trying to get a shot away, just wanted a little bit too much time, and the ball is cleared. I actually think that it may be a free kick against Edouard for the follow-through after that shot. He might have just caught Sean Longstaff there.
Yeah, Longstaff went down. I didn't see exactly where the contact was. It looked like they both tried to kick the ball at the same time, but Longstaff got there slightly before. We'll see another replay. It was one of those, wasn't it? Edouard always wanted to go on his right foot, didn't he? And it never quite opened up for him to take the strike, and in the end, Longstaff was close enough to clear it away.
Yeah, well, it was one of those. Well, certainly Edouard had every right to go for the ball there, but Longstaff just bore the brunt of that one. It's a free kick now to... a free kick to Newcastle just at the edge of their own penalty area. A couple of minutes to go until half-time. And Carl Darlow, well, I was going to say he's been the busier of the two keepers. He has been, but he's probably not been as busy as you would expect, considering that at one stage Palace had 70% possession, and now they've actually gone up to 78. So the home side really are dominating, but not really testing the visitors' goalkeeper too much.
It was that spell, wasn't it? That 5 to 10 minute spell where Palace were absolutely fantastic going forward, but just haven't really consolidated it since, have they? It's interesting, these 4 games that are on at 3 o'clock, of course, in the Premier League. Each of them involving teams that are towards the bottom of the table. Of course, Newcastle in the bottom 3 currently. Southampton coming back at Burnley. Burnley with 3 points they could have done with that one. Of course, Leeds have not been in great form. They're dropping towards there. And then Norwich, of course, losing earlier on. So it's a relegation day almost.
Yes, it is.
So far early in the season, just looking at it.
It certainly is. And at this stage of the season, 3 or 4 wins or 3 or 4 defeats can certainly change where you are on the table quite dramatically as the season wears on. Of course, it starts to bed down a little bit more. But Newcastle still can't bed down in this game. They're really struggling, to say, only seeing around about a quarter of the possession in this match so far. But Palace perhaps just guilty of being a little bit sort of square and back. They're not really able to get forward as much as they'd like, because to their credit, Newcastle are making it difficult for them.
Yeah, they are. They're sat back pretty much with everyone, aren't they? And Wilson and Saint-Maximin are not exactly chasing the centre-halves, but as soon as the ball comes inside, they do chase after them and put the pressure on. So it's not easy for Palace to create chances, but they do have the quality to fire balls through midfield.
And here come Palace now with the ball over towards the left. It's Mitchell at the edge of the area, lifts one, but again, there's too much lift on that and not enough pace. That Darlow can see that one coming a mile off.
Yeah, it was easily choreographed, wasn't it, for Carl Darlow to come out there. It was a good ball initially through the midfield into MacArthur, and then it came out to the left-hand side, but it was asking for a good ball because there were a couple of men in there for Palace, but from such a deep position, you've got to hit it with such pace, haven't you, to get the whip and not allow the goalkeeper to come and get it.
That's the whole point, isn't it, to try and put it into that corridor of uncertainty. Is now chance potentially for Newcastle. I thought Mankia might have been brought down, but there's a offside flag that trumps everything else, and that's going to be a free kick to Palace now. Wilson just holding on to the ball there, not allowing Palace to take that free kick too quickly. Just to make sure that all of his Newcastle teammates back in position, but we're seconds away now from being in injury time at the end of this first half, and it's Palace in possession here with Mark Guehi to Sonny Edouard. 2 minutes have been added to this first half as attempts to switch play to find Elise doesn't get through to him, but then it's a heavy touch from Matt Ritchie. He's dispossessed by Conor Gallagher. The ball now down the right hand side gets through to Elise, back to Gallagher. Now it's with Milivojevic. Gallagher again, back to Luka Milivojevic. He looks up, gets the ball into the penalty area. It's headed up in the air by Kraft, and then back into midfield here for Anderson to Guehi. Elise over towards Joel Ward as Palace once again just struggling to get into the box, and they're getting a little bit impatient there as well as Conor Gallagher is caught offside. Yeah,
frustration building towards the end of the half for Palace. They're working it well up until that moment in and around the box, and Newcastle are very organised, and they're not allowing them to play that ball in behind them. When they did on the right-hand side to Milivojevic, he had to cut it back to the edge of the box, which allowed Kraft to come out and run straight at the ball and get more of a leap than Benteke, and therefore win it back. It's one of those. Palace will be frustrated that they're not leading in this game coming into half-time, but they won't mind the fact that if they do come into half-time, they can reshape again and rejuvenate and come out in the second half and come out quickly.
I think so. I think they certainly look the team more sort of settled on the field here, but with that scoreline being what it is, then potentially Newcastle could try and turn it up a little bit as well. And in the meantime, Ward plays a bit of a hospital ball back to his goalkeeper Gaeta, who slices that one on a bit of a acute angle. It's going to be a throw to Newcastle now down the left-hand side, and just waiting for their throw-on specialist here, it would appear, because Ritchie was ready to take the throw-on, but he leaves it now. Looks like it's going to be Emil Kraft to launch this one into the penalty area. It's pretty much the last chance of this first half now, and Kraft waiting and waiting. Over the 2 minutes now, Kraft's ball into the box, headed away towards the edge of the area, and that will be it for this first half at Selhurst Park. Crystal Palace 0-0 with Newcastle, and myself and Matt will be back in second half commentary in 15 minutes.